Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. Welcome to Odoseva. My name is Sridhar. I'm part of the expert services team here at Odoseva, based in San Francisco. Again, welcome to Odoseva. Just a quick housekeeping items here before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, so just in case you get a client call or you need to step out, don't worry, we got you covered. You can always come back and view the recording. I'm told we'll get that to you 48 hours after. I'm sure as we are going through, you might have questions there. Feel free to submit your questions as part of the chat. It should be at the bottom of your Zoom window there. Submit that. We got people monitoring it. You'll get an answer immediately. Just in case we don't get to you, we'll come back to you on a separate channel to get you the answers that you're looking for. So you are muted, so you will have to use the chat to communicate with us. And we do want to hear from you with all your comments and ideas and questions. So the topic for the day, optimized agents, better results using the power of archived data. It's a pretty powerful topic here. And to present this topic for us, we have our speaker, Ozzy Gorkhan, with us. Ozzy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sridhar, for the intro. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. Really excited about this topic. Want to show you some good stuff, some good content. I have been, before joining Odoseva, have been at Odoseva for a couple of years. I'm in charge of the data platform. I was at Salesforce for 10 years, and I've also gotten my CTA during that time. I was a program architect, maybe just like some of you, and then later a product manager as well. So I'm really happy to be here. All right, let's get started. Of course, we got to establish the reason why we having this webinar today. I think one of the biggest things is the promise of AI, and not just the AI, but also the agent, which is now the newfangled thing that every enterprise, every software vendor, including ourselves, our CEOs, our CIOs, our CTOs are asking, what can we do with this agent technology? How can we bring this to our customers? We're an enterprise company. It's not as simple as, our daughters and sons using ChatGPT to help with their homework, write a quiz to quiz them before the test, or even for me, plan my workout for the day. Really cool. Works really well because these, the Gen AI works with tons of data on the internet. It works with tons of public data on the internet. And, when it comes to some of our private information, private data, we're a little bit reticent to share this. So are enterprises. It's really no different. Enterprises, they they want to be able to bring the same tech to their customers on their website or through their API. And Salesforce is trying to do that. And they're trying really hard to make sure that Agentforce gets adopted through all the security, the trust layer, and that enterprises can trust the data that they have and they can have it be trained by the AI. But there's a problem. The problem is there's data that's sitting on the enterprise's systems, not just CRM, but other systems that are in the past that could be useful, right? Just like the way the internet trained Gen AI, ChatGPT, it's the same thing. But there's data that also is out there that also needs to be kind of cleaned up. There's a lot of duplication, as we all know. A lot of the customers are using different email addresses. There needs to be some type of identity resolution to ensure we're, profiling the right customer. And really, in order for this to work really well, we have to ground the AI into what this enterprise, this context in which we're trying to help our customer. So really, we need AI to help us grow, but we also need to understand the data. So, but the data keeps growing, right? And as the data keeps growing, and from an Odoseva perspective, as we help our Salesforce customers with their data growing on their systems and helping them back up this data, We also recommend, and we work with very large customers to archive their data. And why do we want them to archive their data? Well, there's 4 points here. One is for system performance. As we all know, as we get more and more millions and millions of records on single objects or across objects, things slow down. Reports, dashboards, list views, they take forever to load. Just main operations don't work very well, right? The other thing is some of this data that's sitting in the system, they're probably potentially are obsolete, but obsolete in the sense that they may not be needed for immediate access, but could be very useful for AI training, could be very useful for getting it out there and utilizing it as part of insights. Next one is compliance. This is a huge one. We actually work with customers who can only keep or should only be keeping 1 to 2 years worth of, let's say, case information, and the rest must be archived and put away, but still accessible for legal reasons. The final reason, we all know this, is storage costs. And on Salesforce, because everything you store on Salesforce is pretty much inside a relational database, it is pretty costly. And it is always indexed. It's always available because it's meant to be a real-time system. So we have a solution for that. At Odaseva, we have two products in our suite, and one is our data archiver. This is basically removing the data, allowing you to remove the data, define what data you want to remove, define all the relationships, and remove it from your system, backing it up, removing it, encrypting it, put it in cold storage, and then you're able to still access it whenever you need to. In order to provide real-time access, we also have another product that you install, which is called the Archive Viewer, which gives you access to a very fast index database that allows you to retrieve that data back, but still put it into the format that you're used to. The case page layout, the field permissions for the right person who's viewing it, and be able to do quick searches in case you need to. And I'll actually demonstrate that too. Now we have Data Cloud. This is Salesforce's answer to being able to pull data from disparate systems, multiple orgs, and be able to do things like identity resolution and calculate more insights. Well, the moment you remove data from Salesforce, it's no longer available in Data Cloud. So with the ability of using Odaseva and being able to ingest that back in the Data Cloud allows you to bring things like structured data, not only structured data, but also unstructured data. The things that you had to remove, you should remove, like emails, attachments, or files, you can bring it back in and actually help with that deeper grounding with the unstructured data. Because Data Cloud does have the vector database built right in and has all the search indexes that you need to be able to do the RAG. Not only that, it has the ability to also take the data and harmonize it and make that accessible directly inside Salesforce too. So two together actually provide a very good solution. And that feeds Agentforce. And this is what we're going to demonstrate today. So the beauty is I wanted to get to our demos quickly. So this is great. And let's hit our first demo. We do have 2 demos. First demo, actually both demos are pretty much the same thing. We're going to focus on cases. And in this particular one, we have, and in both, actually, the first demo is about the auto insurance. Second demo is about a shipping company. In this one, the customer is consolidating multiple orgs together, and they have a lot of different records in their cases that they need to archive. So they will only keep the first year of cases, but they still want to be able to give the Service Cloud agents access to these cases and through Agentforce, through AI, because it's faster, it summarizes, and it really understands the natural language really better. So let's go ahead and hit the demo. We're going to talk about these particular components. Our archiver, we're going to look at Agentforce Actions, and we're going to see the data cloud setup. And how did we get this to work with archive data? Perfect. Okay, here we are, and our Service Cloud agent is getting, or it could be a sales agent, is getting a phone call. And we have our Agentforce running over here. and we have Elena on the call, and we want our agent, we're really kind of putting our agent to work here. We're giving very few information. Nice thing is now the agent's coming back saying, who's Elena? Can you please verify first and last name and the birth date? So this is actually part of a really good security setup, validating information. All right, so we give this information in the background. Agentforce is looking up the customer. I'm going to show you the actions that are set up. And sometimes it doesn't format. So say, please format this as a table. Nice thing that's just releasing with summer is the ability to put custom LWC components. So this could actually be a card that you put in there that you can swipe through. Giving that a few seconds to do its job. There we go. So now we can see that these are the most recent cases. And I'll talk about this little data source bit that I put down here that are for Elena. So this is great, but I don't see the case that she's calling about. So I'm going to ask about the archive cases. So now it understood what I wanted, and it's showing, and notice the difference between the data source. The data source here, when I go to Data Cloud, you'll see this is actually coming from the CRM, and this is coming from the ingestion data source. So in here, we can see that we see the archive cases, and I'm going to focus on one of them because she did indeed call in with a dead battery. So I'm going to ask Agentforce to look up not only the details of this case, but also look up the unstructured data that I had also ingested on the help, which would have been things like there was knowledge-based articles, or in general, archived or non-archived. We put the help articles out there so it can ground this response. Very cool. So looked up the case, which was based on, if we look back up here, it was a dead battery. I'm stuck on the side of the road. Can you please help tow my car? And so the dead battery, it's, you know, giving some good information. This is actually information that I scraped from the AAA website, which was great. So it's very nice because now I was able to conversate with the data. I was able to talk to the data. I didn't have to go through and do a search at the top over here for the case number. I was able to just conversate. So you can imagine this in the console itself. It could even be automatic when the phone call comes in. Okay, so I'm going to show you behind the scenes. This was the very quick demo on what is the art of the possible. I'm going to switch over now to showing how the data archiver works. So we have these cases that are actually sitting in the org, and we're going to archive them using Odaseva. The way we have done this, and again, archiving requires a little bit of planning and strategy, because you don't want to just sit there and go, well, I'm just going to delete 100 case records. What's your criteria? Is it last modified date? Is it a status? Is it some sort of, is it a case that is closed? What are some of the business logic? That's why it's very important to collaborate with the stakeholders and understand what, and the compliance, what can be removed, what can stay. For this demonstration, I'm actually randomly select cases that are closed and then tag them with a field called live archiving. So we can see that we have a bunch of these cases that have been closed. Obviously, for demo reasons, they were closed very quickly. Say open and close at the same time. Great. So let's switch over to Odaseva. Okay, this is our platform. So our admin is logging in, actually already browsed to all the orgs that they've connected to. And this particular org is the org that I just showed you, which was the cases to archive. And we can see that it's being backed up regularly. We have, actually, let me just show you. We have some backups that have been running. It's backing up regularly, full backup. You can actually see the object coverage. And we have data apps installed on our org, and this is how it works in Odoseva. We actually have this concept of data applications. You can install things like seeding, restore test readiness, archiving. In this particular scenario, we're going to look at archiving and cloud replication because we're going to replicate it to data cloud. So let's switch over to our archiving, and we can get to the archiving from here. And this particular data app was installed. It gets installed as a template, and from there you customize it the way you want it, exactly to your specifications. In this particular template, there are 4 steps. The first step is backing up, because we don't want to delete and not have a backup of it. Even though we do have a full backup, this is still important to have this set of records that I was removing to be backed up specifically, because you can also use it for other reasons. Next step is to take that backup step, and we anonymize the sensitive data. And in this particular demo, we're anonymizing the email address and the phone number, I believe. So this is basically a philosophy that anytime the data is leaving your Salesforce boundaries, even though it's going back into data cloud, you still want to ensure that you are complying with any data privacy and regulations and being able to anonymize it. The nice thing is it's all part of the operation in the platform. Next thing is sending it to the data cloud external connector. In this particular way, we're using the S3 for ingestion. In the future, near future, we will be supporting the zero copy connection. And then finally, deleting it. So let's go ahead and run this. I did run this again last night. So hopefully I can walk through the previous run while this thing is running. Yep, we got a run going. So why don't we take a look at this run, see what's happening. It should be pretty quick. Up, already pulled down. Yeah, that was really quick, actually. It already pulled down 53 records, which is what you just saw here. It was these records right here. So going back here, the next thing it's doing is it's anonymizing this data. So let's go ahead and look inside our backup. I'm opening in new tabs. I realize it's getting more and more. Don't worry. I've done this before. I'm a professional. So in here, we actually have the definition of, I'm going to show you the dataset designer where we design the actual relationships. And this is where the data that is being backed up, it's an external connector, it's being sent to our archive viewer database. So this gives us the ability to then later on, if we have an archive viewer, we can quickly search that up, and that is in the next demo. So if we look at the logs, we can see actually last run result. We look at the last run result, we're able to see all the records that were backed up. And of course, this is an encryption key, customer managed. And let's sort by case number so we can see Giovanna Walter. Let's double check, make sure that was the case. So yes, it is indeed. So we did pull those down. Sorry, let me get back to where I was. Yeah, let's go. Next thing I want to show you is the data set that we designed for this. So the data set is it's a visual tool. It's an amazing tool. You start with the root object that you want. You can have multiple root objects, and then you tell it how many layers or how many levels of child relationships you can pull down. And then you can then design the up queries and the down queries so that you can get things like attachments, right? The goofy way things are done in the data model. You could have some of these multiple relationships, right? So cases have accounts, but then the accounts have accounts, etc. So you can, what I have in here from a scope perspective, I'm pulling in the contacts and the accounts that are associated, as well as all the attachments that are attached to the case and the case comments itself, and then if there are any parent case. But the trick here is, obviously, you don't want to pull everything back because this is not a full backup. This is not a sandbox seeding. So you can actually limit these records, right? So you can either limit it by the number of records you want. In this particular sense, I'm not. Here, I am doing the archiving logic that we discussed, which is using the Odysseus archive field, checking to make sure it's set to live archiving, checking to make sure that it wasn't created today, for demo purposes. Clearly, this should be like 1 year or 2 year, and that the status is closed. So you can actually then see the preview of what this circle looks like. So this then gives you the ability to see, design what you need so that you back up, right? That was part of our macro, exactly what you need to basically extract the data set that you need exactly to anonymize, to send, and then to delete. So let's go back in and check in on our template. On our macro, everything's completed. Excellent. We transformed 27 records, which would be all the cases. We sent them all, and then we removed them. So let's take a look at how did the anonymizer work. Right. So let's actually go through the wizard just because it's just simpler to see. We can see that we picked the email, and you can actually pick from a library, like so you don't have to think about it, or you can actually create a custom regex pattern as well. So this is picking from a library of emails to randomize on. So we have email address. I picked email and phone. So this makes it super easy, and you can actually do this across the different objects that are part of that scope. Okay, so we anonymize it. So if we look at the logs, it will tell you exactly that. Let me see down here. Where's our case? Yeah. So it was 27 records and anonymized 108 fields. Okay, so this is great. And we will see that in the data cloud end. So going back to our template here, we sent this to external data cloud. So let's take a look. Okay, how did that happen? We look in the logs. Actually, let me show you this external connector. We have it actually connected to sending to an S3 bucket, and that S3 bucket is being read by data cloud. And down here, you can see that was the anonymization. See, I am getting into trouble with too many tabs. All right, down here, we can see that it was sent into a folder structure, and you have full control over how you want to send this through cloud replication. A lot of our customers use this for internal distribution of their different objects to different business units, BI, or other divisions. Okay, great. So we sent it, and then finally we removed this from the org. Oh no. Is it scary? No, it's not scary. It's actually really safe because we backed it up, and you can always pull it back. You can always unarchive it. So let's go back and let's make sure that it actually did work. Let's hit refresh on our org. Voila, it's gone. Whew. Do you feel it? Do you feel the weight lifted? Now we can perform better. Excellent. Okay, so now we have lots of tabs open. Now what I want to do is I want to switch over to Data Cloud. Okay. In Data Cloud, the way things work is things come in through data streams, and data streams are basically connectors connecting to external systems or to your different CRM orgs. So in here I've just whittled it down to the ones that we care about. We have the S3 buckets connections, one per object. And in particular, let's look at this case one, actually. So we look at the data stream, you will see that it's exactly this directory, which is an org ID. so you can have multiple orgs. The case subfolder, and then all the case zip files that were sent over, the CSV files, basically star.star, so that you get all the jobs. And then we're consuming every 5 minutes as an outsert. So you'll see this. Let me actually, so 8:19 a.m. it processes. It's running every 5 minutes. May pick up on it. Let's see. Could always hit refresh now and see what happens. Refresh only new files. Yep, that sounds good. So while that's happening, the bottom four that you see are actually what's coming from the org. I have Data Cloud set up differently than the demo org just to make things more complicated. No, actually, to demonstrate that Data Cloud doesn't have to be sitting on your main org, it could be sitting on another org, right? And Salesforce has improved it to be more of a Data Cloud one proposition. So if we look inside the data lake objects that the data stream pushes into, we can see that we have the archive case that's pulling in all the records. Then we have the CRM cases coming in. So if we take a look at the data lake object, what happens to it? The data comes in, then from there, it needs to go somewhere, and it goes to a data model object. In this particular scenario, we keep things simple. We directly map it to a custom data model object, just so that we're keeping the CRM cases separate than the archive cases, but you don't have to do this. This is a bit of a design philosophy. For me, thinking as cases archived separately than the cases themselves makes it really easy also and simpler to distinguish it in Agentforce, but you don't have to do it this way. You can harmonize it into the standard model, case model, and then pull it in any way you want into related fields as well. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? All right, so let's see. We have analytics dashboard in here, and we should be able to see that record coming in. Let's see, case number. Well, maybe not yet. But these are from last night, so trust me, it does come in. Yeah, not yet, but that's okay. But now you can see actually the data source where it's coming in from. And you actually see some of these emails that are, where is that email? That's randomized. All right. Let's take a look at now Agentforce. Actually, one thing that I didn't mention was the fact that the unstructured articles, the case help articles, are coming into an unstructured data lake object. There is no data stream concept. You directly mapped. It is a little complex how Salesforce did this because you have to do like a whole file notification system for this to work. But if we look inside the case help articles, you can see that it's a directory table. And then this gets mapped. I mapped it specifically to a RAG file UDMO, which is something that gets created automatically when you have Agentforce. And this gets indexed. Let's go to a search indexer. Actually, I like this view better. So this gets indexed, vector indexing. It chunks up all these articles, so it makes it available for searching. If you're familiar with the vector search database. So it works pretty well. And you can create obviously multiple of these different articles coming in, but you now have the ability to ingest this, and notice if I can pull all these things and make it available to Data Cloud. Okay. Let's go in and dig into the topic. So we have what I've done for this demo is created an archiving topic. And inside this topic, I have defined all the instructions as to what needs to happen. These are very important, believe it or not. The more instructions you add, the more clear you are, the better the agent's going to pick up and use your topic and do the right thing. What we did here, and while we're talking, because I'm doing too much talking and not enough showing, in here, let's see, let's put in the same thing that we did in the first page so we can see exactly what's going on. So Good news is actually, well, it actually took a different path. So this is very important. I'm going to put this in the tips and tricks. Sometimes the agent doesn't necessarily know exactly what you need. So instructions count. Clearly, I'm missing a topic instruction, but no worries. It is asking for the email address. I'm going to give it the first name, last name, and birth date anyways, and then it's going to figure it out. So you went to more of a generic case management topic as opposed to the ODA7 archiving topic, which is totally fine, totally normal. It's up to you as the Agentforce designer to ensure that it goes to your topic. So the better you describe it, the better it will pick up on it. So now I know it's going there just because of the output text. In the meantime, you'll see all the actions over here. It did the right thing. So it did the lookup of the customer, which is really cool. Look how it already formats the birth date. It called the flow, the lookup customer flow. Then after that, it called the recent case records, which would be cases that are sitting on the org itself. In this particular case, I made it go out to Data Cloud because we were syncing it. And then it turned around and actually also pulled the archive cases and called the format case response, which is a prompt template that takes the JSON and formats it. So this is pretty cool. As you create this, you can test this out. I use flows because flows were really fast, really easy to use. I'll show you, let me see which flow. I'll show you the lookup customer flow. So this one was the first one, which is the lookup customer to find the individual that's out on Data Cloud. Data Cloud object built right in. So it makes it really easy for you to get started. I used the first name, last name, and birth date that was passed in and basically did a query on Data Cloud itself. And then pull the ID back so that it's available for the next flow. So if we look at what called next, which would get recent case records and find archive, let's look at the find archive one. It looks up the individual ID, pulls it back, right? Because that gives me what I need. Then I look at in here, then I'm looking up at the archive case data, data lake model, data model object, too many acronyms. So I'm looking at the fact that the contact ID is associated with the individual ID. Pretty cool, right? Because that data came through the archiving, it was in there, same. Sorting it by last modified date and pulling back the 5. So this is now gives me this JSON record, which then I can turn around. And let's go back to our Agentforce. Formatting the case response. This is where prompt templates come into play in order to utilize the JSON to sort of template conversion. But not just there, because Salesforce is now giving us this LWC capability. So you don't have to use prompt templates, which is great, because then you can really do a better job than this just listing right here. But the other thing with the prompt templates is the searching the case help articles. This is where you're doing the vector search, right? This is where it's giving you a summary of information. That's when prompt templates become really key. Regardless, though, I had to use a prompt template to do the formatting the case response. So let me ask, let's see, this question. So it goes out and uses the search case help articles prompt template, and then I'll show that for you. So searching for helpful response, that hit the search case help articles prompt template. It's basically searching with the subject and description, gets the help articles using the vector search, semantic search, and then it basically, yeah, there you go, it creates a summary, right? So you can see over here, what goes in is this, what comes out is that. Magic, it's not a direct lookup to an article, it's actually a reasoning, right? It's an LLM. So let me show you that. Yeah, this is it, right? So this looks familiar probably. These are prompt instructions, right? You're helping a service agent, limit the text to this. Here's a case subject and description coming in. And I want you to use this search retriever that I showed you on Data Cloud, right? To provide a summary. Beautiful. This is exactly what you want a prompt template to do. Okay. So I showed you an end-to-end, pretty simple, and I'll give you some tips as to how you could do this yourself. Let me go back to my script. Okay. All right. So just a high level quick, I'll go through this really quickly. We have two orgs over here. We have the Salesforce main org and we have the Data Cloud org that I just showed you. But again, conceptually, physically, it is separate. Data Cloud is a really separate operation software that's running in the same data center. But logically, if you buy a Data Cloud to your main org, then it's kind of on top of each other, right? But you have all of your agent force sitting on your org over here. This is where you're asking the questions. You're querying your Data Cloud. Odaseva is pulling from this main org and archiving it, anonymizing it, and replicating it through the S3 into Data Cloud. And inside Data Cloud, you're transforming, harmonizing these into the data model that is then accessible by Agentforce. And again, another view on the Data Cloud, the top stream is a stream of the CRM coming through, CRM cases, accounts, contacts, so that you can do the joining. And the bottom stream is the data that's coming through the archive pipeline into Data Cloud. Now, I kept, like I said, to keep it logically separate, I kept the archive separate than the normal. Just, well, for one thing, it's easier then to distinguish in the flows, in the actions. Second thing, I didn't really feel like we should be piling on top of each other. You may not want to sync the CRM cases into Data Cloud. Gives you the option. Okay, so for our data archive or optimizations, so we touched upon this a little bit. It's strategic. Archiving is strategic. It's not just a decision you take lightly. You need to identify the scenarios and really start archiving early. What are these LDV objects? There are fast-growing ones, like 100,000 cases per day for some of our clients. And there are slow but surely growing ones, like maybe leads and maybe opportunities or contacts or accounts. Those are some of the slow growers, right? Predict these storage limits, map out a timeline. It gives you a good, some of them you may are too late. You're already above the data storage limit, cases are too big, and you need to start archiving now. Or you may have a 6-month timeline. That's good, start early. This is what you need to know. If you know it's like this versus like this, you're gonna hit that storage limit. Identify these unused records, use whatever the criteria is, last modified state, unused attachments, files, KB articles, determine what that archiving frequency is going to be like. What should the retention be based on my compliance reasons? And then, do I need to mask these things? Like, what do I need? Which fields do I need to mask? And then finally, you need to get that stakeholder approval. For Data Cloud, there's a lot to be said here. Obviously, I only touched upon the surface, and by no means is this comprehensive, but KISS principle applies here. Keep it simple, right? You're getting archived data. You can keep it into archive data model objects and then work from there. So, but identify these key things that you need, identify the mappings. Do you want to keep it separate or do you want to harmonize it? What are these key index fields for structured data? Because you may want to use vector search on structured data. You can do that. You can actually go onto the archive case and put a search indexer on it and then have semantic search on the description across all cases. Not hard articles, but on structured data. And then finally, what is the unstructured data you want to bring for deeper grounding? Okay.
Hey, Ozzy, quick pause here. I'm glad you brought this up, and this is actually a question that's coming to us as well. So thus far, we've been, about 40 minutes into the session here. We've been talking about how you can connect Odaseva to Data Cloud and thus bring in some of the archived information and show that as well. But we have a user here, Ankur, who has asked a fantastic question that was on my mind as well, which is, what happens if somebody doesn't have Data Cloud? Ankur says, hey, in my organization, we use customer data platform, but we don't use Data Cloud yet. which means we have data lakes of structured data. Can we still use Odaseva archive data, view and retrieve that
Yeah.
data, or do we need to move to Data Cloud first to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. No, you're not required to have Data Cloud for Agentforce for data reasons. Now, of course, you speak. Data Cloud does come with Agentforce because the LLM, the vector search, well, LLM mainly, and some of the trust layer runs on Data Cloud. But it doesn't mean you need the data inside Data Cloud. It still works with your CRM data. But archive data, once it's removed from your system, if you don't have Data Cloud, Odaseva has the solution for you. And I mentioned this in the beginning. We actually archive, but then we also create what we call live archiving, which is our archive viewer database. And we are now building, and I'm going to give you an early preview of using archive viewer to get this data either through archive viewer API, through our package, or now with the early preview with our Agentforce archiving agent. Now, archive viewer is GA, it's live, you can get it now. Some of our most esteemed, most large enterprise customers actually have archive viewer and archiving, and they love it. So I'm going to demo that now, Sridhar.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, cool. So why don't we actually just go straight in and demo it? So our developers created an early preview of a Agentforce package, and it's called Odaseva Archive Viewer. So let's go inside the topic. In this topic, this is about finding the archive data, but we're not hitting Data Cloud. This is actually hitting our archive viewer database, and I'll show you in the high-level system diagram. So why don't we, and here's the topic actions. Why don't we go ahead? Let me find my script. Got to have the cheat script, right? Let's see. Okay, in this particular scenario, this is different org. It's not the same org we're dealing with. And I'm running this Agentforce on a scratch org against another org. It's actually going out to our archive viewer database and it's checking to see for the archive cases. We have set up these actions that are now no longer flows, but these are actually calling invocable Apex. That's part of our archive viewer package. This is an extension package that utilizes our archive viewer package, which you can also do if you built this yourself. But we built it because it handles everything from the authentication to the field permissions, all the things that are necessary, even mapping it to the actual live records. Now, since this is not running on the org in which you have Agentforce, instead you're getting the IDs, we are able to actually even put links. If this was actually running on that org, these links would take you directly to that owner, direct you to that case number. So as you see, this search actually went out to Odaseva and it returns all kinds of information because this uses our archive viewer package that defines what the field types are, what parent lookup relationships they have, which is amazing. There's tons of information coming back. And again, we have the formatter over here, just like in the previous example that I pulled together. And now we're getting back this. And once we put the LWC in here, it will be pretty amazing. So this actually did go out to our archive viewer database, not Data Cloud. So I'm going to ask the next question. Show me the details of the case, which makes another call. So the first one was searching the archive records. Now it's going to go back and give me the archive record detail. These are very important. Your actions should be broken down into meaningful units. What you don't want is one action to do too many things. You want it to be simple. And in your topic, you don't want too many actions either. You may want to start considering breaking into topics. We've done quite a bit of experimentation, and there is a sweet spot, and you have to play with that sweet spot, not just the instructions in the topic itself, the method description itself, the parameter description itself, all becomes very important as you play around with this. So here, cool. We got the description. We got more information about who modified it, and then there's a little summary at the bottom that says that. So now we're like, all right, can we go get the related comments? See, this is all going back to Odaseva. Odaseva knows all the things, the relationships, and since we backed it up and archived it and indexed it, we have access to all of this information. It's not coming from Salesforce. There we go. So now we actually have case comments. What did it do? It searched the related records, and then it formatted it and sent it back to us. Let's see, what else do we have? This is actually great. So you can actually do even more comprehensive, like show me all the related case comments to a certain subject as well from the very beginning. So what does this look like? If we go to our org that the Agentforce is heading against, inside the org, we let me see, did it show the account name? It didn't. It can't show the account name. We have an account, Agent Co, that has all the cases. Now, once you have the archive viewer package installed, you're able to drop in Lightning Web components that either directly sit on these related lists, or, and I'll show you next, there's a dedicated search function, the component that you can drop into a console as well. In this particular scenario, we have a tab called Odaseva Archive. Data history is ours as well. And in here, you can see all the archive cases that went on. And when you click on it, this was the 339. Is that right? Let me see. Shipping delay, yes. So if we click on this, this is actually using the same package, the same API to go get this information. It's reading the page layout. It's reading the field permissions to show or not show what you as a user can see. And then it's pulling this all back and resolving the owner IDs, etc. So this is actually really cool. So it's almost like you never lost this information that you archived. You never lost the ability to go get to it. And it was really quick. How would you be able to do this if, and actually, wait, there's a related tab in here. So this is now going in and pulling in all the things that are related to that case. And here are the case comments. Check the system. Let's see, is that the right comments? Yes, check the system. So this is really cool. Because we built this package, we are able to quickly add Agentforce on top of it to utilize it. We have a lot of plans to, of course, enhance it. This is very preview. Okay, so there's also a search component that you can directly embed. And you determine what, obviously, this list here is what you're archiving. So let's look at this, shipping. And so we currently support starts with. In the future, we're looking at obviously enhancing the ability to search a little bit more liberally. But for now, I think we have the case number, the subject. You determine what fields you want to index. Boom, and here it is. It came back. That was sitting on the archives. What's the difference between the two? Well, one is on a related list. The other one is I can search any object for any of the index fields. And then I get exactly the same thing if I open this in a new tab. I get the same case record layout, so which is pretty cool. And you can actually determine what layout you want to assign it to. And notice how it's resolving everything, including the record type. So the setup is relatively straightforward. You configure what object. So let's see, case. Each object has its own configuration, what page layout you want. By default, everything's going to use what's already been associated. You can pick which fields you want to show. Additionally, by default, it will show whatever's in the layout. And then you can also show this on your Experience Cloud if you have that too. And then on the search side, all the indexing you do set up in the archiver itself. Here's where you're determining what objects are enabled for search. So this is actually very powerful. Let me make sure I showed everything. This is actually very powerful in that there is no data cloud setup involved in here. I didn't show you any cloud replication. We're using the same data archiver, but no need to send external connector. So you're actually removing a step. So let's hit the oops, sorry. So the high level architecture diagram, simplified, obviously. What we've got is we still have the Agentforce. Now we have the archive viewer package, which is wrapping all the actions, and it's it's a little more deterministic, a little less of configuring on our side. It's invoking the archive viewer package, which is out there today, and we're going to continue to enhance it. But it's great because it takes care of all of the setup, all of the field permissions, all the layouts, etc., all the things that the Agentforce should or should not show. And then finally, you have the data archiving app and the additional bit, and I showed you that, which basically saying, okay, send this set of data to the archive database, viewer database, for it to be indexed. And then you have the archive viewer API, which actually you can access to as well. That both the Agentforce and the archive viewer are accessing it through the same mechanism. So these are the key components. No data cloud involved here. Okay, so what are the optimizations for archive viewer? What I just mentioned. You got to design for the right access, right? Which user, what layout, what permissions, and design for fast searches. What objects, what fields need to be indexed, right? So identify the key objects that are to be viewable. You don't want the whole world. You don't want all the records. It doesn't make sense. It just slows things down, and you don't really necessarily want to create another Salesforce outside of Salesforce, right? You want to be very cognizant, very intentional about archiving. Tweaking the data archive frequency and retentions. This is, again, repeating the same thing because it's using the same data archiver, and defining the right field level permissions. Agentforce lessons learned, because it's a nonstop optimization game. So I'll just tell you what we learned. It's really about creating and simple and deterministic-ish agent actions, because it's kind of non-deterministic, and hence the reason why Salesforce has created this whole Agentforce DX test suite creation capabilities, and our QEs are having to deal with it, which is cool. But maybe it's a topic for another webinars. How did we test Agentforce? Provide clear and simple but thorough instructions for your topics. I mean, I can't stress this enough. It's really important. It works really well. Minimum set of actions, clear functional breakdown, atomic. You want to get started quickly, utilize flows. Utilize flows for these structured and deterministic actions like queries, API callouts. They're great. And parameter passing has been simplified now. And so you can do what you need to do with Agentforce action. Pretty cool. You should be able to automate a process today using your existing flows. And then use your prompt templates for RAG. If you got unstructured data, you can literally go into Agentforce. On the left side, there's a library tab. Just load a bunch of test PDFs right now, and we'll actually do the automatic connect to search indexing, and you can use it. You can use it for summarization, and then use parameter passing. That's new. They added that. Definitely use parameter passing. Test early, test often, because we have a tendency. I mean, the way I talk to ChatGPT is almost like my buddy. My wife asked me, "Why do you keep saying please and thank you?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm just used to it. Well, you're wasting CPU. So test early, test often. You don't know what your agents are going to say, and it's going to mess it up, right? So do's and don'ts for prompts. There's certain things that probably shouldn't be saying, just because it's like going around the circle. Why don't you just ask the question directly instead of going around it, right? Important to provide keywords like archive cases. If I just said cases, it would have gone everywhere. And then use the test suites. Okay.
Ozzy, we got 5 more minutes left. We have some questions that are coming through.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we hit the questions?
Yeah, Marianne and team has been furiously answering questions behind the scenes. Thank you so much, Marianne. But there are a couple that have been highlighted. I wanted to get your opinion about that. First, couple of times you said review. Where are we on the product journey for this stuff? You showed how you can,
Right.
bring in Data Cloud, and then on the other side, you said, hey, you don't really need Data Cloud if you're not ready for Data Cloud. You can, integrate Archive Viewer directly with Agentforce there. How can somebody get started with this stuff? Is this just an Aussie's playground, or where are we with the product journey?
Yeah, so we are looking to release this year. We're getting pretty close. Obviously, like I just said, testing often is clear. It's really, really important that we have our DX Agentforce DX suite test suites down, but we're looking to release this summer, fall timeframe this year for sure, which is great because then we do actually have already a very simplistic backup agent up there. So we're working on 2 agents at the same time already in Agent Exchange. This will be our next listing. So we're learning as we go. When we first released that was back in February. It didn't have all these fancy schmancy parameters stuff. So yeah, pretty soon. Pretty soon.
Got it. So something that's coming. So maybe if somebody wants to play around with it, reach out to you, and we
Yeah,
can
I
we
think
can
we
do a.
should be putting it into pilot soon. Correct.
Got it. Got it. So Jim, you asked that question. That's for you. Reach out to us and we can set something up for you and maybe do a private demo and then get this set up in your org as well. My friend Ankur is back. He asks extension of his previous question. His question is, if I get archive viewer understanding right, the data is not in Salesforce, but resides in Odaseva, which means it's only a view-only mode. The only drawback which I could see is Salesforce Analytics will not be able to see this data yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you're trying to augment the data that's in archive with, let's say, your CRM analytics, you can do one of 2 things. One, you can um, do cloud replication to get these files, these CSV files, out to an S3 somewhere and ingest it into your CRM analytics. Very similar to Data Cloud, but you're not using Data Cloud. You're directly ingesting it into CRM analytics. I do that actually. We have a product called Multi-Org Insights that I use that is ingesting CSV files to show information across all the different orgs. So that's one way of doing it. Obviously, you can use our API to pull down the files you need, and then use the Wave API to insert it into CRM Analytics. You can turn around and aggregate and insert it back into Salesforce. Probably not a great idea. You don't want to do that. But I think the cloud replication to an S3 and then ingesting into CRM Analytics might be what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. All right, I
Yeah.
know we have just a minute left here. There have been multiple requests for any, hints of pricing, given that it is early preview there. Have you thought about pricing at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, because this relies on the archive viewer package, I don't know that it is necessarily something that's additional. One big difference between us and Data Cloud is that Data Cloud will charge you for credits for ingestion and querying. For us, it's a straight, pricing on top of backup and restore for archiving plus, we call it. And my guess is nobody, hope I don't get in trouble. It would be included just because it makes you a better customer. The only thing is Agentforce. You're going to pay, hopefully they'll fix it so it's micro conversations as opposed to 24-hour pay $2 conversations. But once Salesforce resolves that, then that's all you would pay for. You're not paying for access directly all the time you're searching for it. That's a one-time part of the backup and restore and archiving charge. It would be included.
Got it. Got it. I know there are as you are starting to answer questions, Ozzy, I'm seeing a flurry of questions coming up, but unfortunately,
Oh
we
yeah,
are out of time. So again,
right.
if we didn't answer your question, we will come back to you. And Jim, we're going to reach out to you to set up those demos directly in your org. With that said, thank you for taking the time to come meet out with us. Thank you again, Ozzy, for this excellent presentation. Thank you, folks. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.